was the resignation of senior counterterrorism official Joe Kent and the reasons articulated by him in his resignation letter. Can you enlighten us on this?
Joe Kent, I think, is the highest ranking U.S. official to have resigned over a war since Vietnam. And this war is shaping up to Trump's Vietnam, or at least his own personal Vietnam, to paraphrase Donald Trump referring to his exploits with women as a bachelor back in the 1970s and 80s. And so Joe Kent is seeing what the rest of us are seeing, but he had seen it from the inside as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, operating essentially one echelon below the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, a fellow U.S. veteran who brought him in. It's well known Joe Kent has done 11 combat tours. He was a special forces operator, Green Beret, worked with the CIA, lost his wife, Shannon Kent, who was a CIA operative after the Syria withdrawal was sabotaged by military leadership. Why was the U.S. involved in Syria? Why was Syria happening? Well, Joe Kent, in his resignation, dared to point out that Syria was on the U.S.'s regime change target list because Israeli operatives put it there, along with Iraq and Iran, as part of the clean break document that was furnished to Benjamin Netanyahu by his advisors who went on to advise George W. Bush back in 1996. Joe Kent is stating the obvious truths that we all know about Israeli influence over U.S. government and about the Israeli influence that is just unprecedented over Donald Trump, and about the disastrous course of the Iran war, which is destroying the global economy, in which Israel continues to escalate to prevent Donald Trump from finding an off-ramp. And there's almost no way to challenge what Joe Kent said in his resignation letter on the merits. It was such a bold, truthful statement, but also just unbelievably courageous to make these statements about Israel. And it shows how far gone the U.S. government is at this point, that someone of his stature with his background would do this. And so his opponents now, who are a combination of Trump dead-enders and Israel lobbyists and Israelis themselves, are trying to muddy the waters by making this into an anti-Semitism scandal and painting him in the words of Amos Hochstein, who is the former Israeli turned Biden advisor who helped steer Biden's policy in support of Israel's goal to destroy Lebanon, calling him a neo-Nazi. He's being attacked also by, liberals, but also by Trump loyalists. And he has just utterly shattered their entire narrative and opened up the debate that we really need to have as a nation right now. Should the United States be waging war for Israel? And is the U.S. military carrying out a mission on behalf of American national security or on behalf of a psychotic apartheid colony 6,000 miles away? And it's obviously the latter. So again, there's no way to attack Joe Kent on the merits. So they're trying to turn it into an anti-Semitism scandal. And the funniest part, which we'll, I'm sure, get to, is they're trying to drag me in the gray zone into this.
Well, just a moment before we get to them trying to drag you in. Who attacked the South Pars gas field, the Israelis or the U.S. or both?
Well, the Israelis can't do anything without the U.S. I mean, who supplied the planes? Who supplied the bombs? Who supplied the fuel, the in-air refueling? But this was an Israeli objective. First of all, unionized workers. It's a very important part of Iran's domestic industry and its economic powerhouse. It supplies gas domestically to the Iranian population, which means, everything the U.S., but especially the Israelis, say about how they want to liberate Iranians from the evil mullahs is proven false by this attack. But more importantly, Iran had warned explicitly, we will retaliate by attacking energy infrastructure around the region, and we will reclaim escalation dominance if you continue to attack our oil fields and our own infrastructure. And so that's what they did. They attacked a LNG facility in Qatar, whose production is now down 20% and will not be able to recover its normal production rate for 3 to 5 years. This is like a hammer blow to Europe, who was essentially running the Iranian government, because he was negotiating behind the scenes with the Gulf states to provide Trump with an off-ramp for as long as possible, because the Israeli goal is not the same as the U.S. goal. We don't actually even know what the U.S. goal is, but the Israeli goal is to destroy Iran as a nation. And to do that, they need the U.S. military to be involved for as long as possible. And Iran is demonstrating that it can not only hit back, but it can reclaim escalation dominance, and that the entire narrative that we're hearing about the Iranian military from the Israelis, which has infested our own media narrative, that their missile launching capacity has been wiped out, that their drone production is wiped out, is totally false. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, or whatever he is, war secretary, claimed that Iran's air defenses had been flattened. And guess what happened today? For the first time in history, an F-35 was hit with a missile, an Iranian missile. And the pilot only escaped because he was probably on the border region in Western Iran and was able to get back. Otherwise, he probably would have been taken captive.
I didn't know you owned a site called the Greystone.
Like, yeah, it still sounds elegant. You know,
It does.
we sell luxury watches to men who want to look like Pierce Brosnan or something.
All right. So the woman that he's referring to, I believe, is Joe Kent's current wife. Take it from there.
Did you know that clown when you were at Fox News?
Oh, God, I knew him. I was the fill-in host for his show probably 50 times.
I mean, he hasn't changed. You know,
No.
you get accustomed to these screeds where he goes down the rabbit hole, and it's just he's building bridges of lies based off, to connect islands of half-truths to deceptions. And in this case, almost everything he says about me is false. I mean, the funniest thing is he says I spoke on stage with Alexander Dugin in Moscow, and I never did. I didn't even agree to appear at any event in Moscow. And I think it's like the Forum of the Future or something. Elon Musk's father was there, but I wasn't there. Anyway, so it's all kind of made up, and they're trying to drag me into it because Heather Kaiser, who went on to marry Joe Kent, contributed, co-authored a piece years ago, I think back in 2023, for the Gray Zone, that was about wasteful USAID spending in Ukraine. Honestly, it was kind of like a piece that aligned with the Trump campaign's messaging back in 2024, which no longer aligns. And that was it. So they're just trying to find some hook. And then by connecting that to the Gray Zone, we're sort of somehow connected to Qatar, Russia, Iran, the entire axis of evil, even though the Gray Zone is a completely independent site, independently funded with no connection to any of those governments. And this is all they have to attack Joe Kent with. It's funny. And I'm honestly kind of enjoying it, but what they're trying to do is not just muddy the waters. They're definitely trying to present a substitute for an argument about why Joe Kent
event. Has the IDF threatened elimination for Russian leaders on the basis of their speech if they wish the Netanyahu government ill?
Have, and I'll get to that in a second. I wanted to kind of make another point that I left out, which is that I had nothing to do with Joe Kent's resignation. I got the news just like everybody else did, but we're being the Gray Zone's being involved in some bonkers conspiracy theory by, washed up former Fox boomer slop merchants like Glenn Beck. And it's ridiculous, but we are influential. And so is Judge Napolitano. And so are so many emerging podcasts and independent outlets. And they are shaping the way that people in power think. I do want to take some measure of credit for helping to shift the discussion in this country, because this country is changing and people are waking up to what time it is right now. And they're realizing that the US military is becoming a tool of a crazy apartheid colony 6 million miles away, and its assets inside the United States who control the president. And this is why I hosted John Mearsheimer last week about his book, The Israel Lobby, on the 20th anniversary of the publication of his famous essay with Stephen Walt at the London Review of Books. It's being vindicated right now. It's going mainstream. Even Republicans under age 40 who don't watch Fox News are seeing this. So, I think we're going to see more disruption at the top, because important people, Judge, they're watching you, and you're shaping the way they think they're seeing, including many of them who are on the inside. So Joe Kent's not the only one, and they can't make an example of him. And there will be more. Trust me, there will be more. To your question about...
let me just respond to what you said. Yeah. There are many of us who are fighting this battle, but none more personally courageous than you. You are the gold standard in this battle for exposing what is going on. And it's a pleasure to work with you. I know we're going to be taking slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. We're ready for it.
Well, I mean, look at Colonel Wilkerson. This was, Colin Powell's chief of staff.
Right.
Now, what he says is about what's about to happen in the Iran war is absolutely true. And he knows this from experience. I haven't been inside the room like him.
Yes.
But, these are the figures that you're giving voice to day after day. And people on the inside are learning the lessons from these seasoned figures, and they are being led into disaster. So if you're watching this right now and you're on the inside, or you're inside the military, Donald Trump is being led by some very dark forces that do not represent American national security interests. And he's being led into a disaster that will be remembered in the same breath as Vietnam and the Iraq War, possibly worse. So make the decision that's right for you and listen to your conscience like Joe Kent did, because Joe Kent will be remembered as a patriot and a hero, and everyone who stood with Donald Trump will be recognized as a scofflaw, a villain, and a disgrace. And that's too bad for someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who built her career on being a dissenter and had one of the most disgraceful testimonies in Congress I've ever seen.
Listen, I could play it. We've been playing it all day. There's no sense even watching again. She's an utter disgrace. And to those people to whom you are speaking, not only be as courageous as Joe Kent, be as eloquent if you can. Be clear in your articulation, just like Joe was. Now to this IDF threat of Russia. What is this all about?
There's this woman, Anna Ukolova. I think she's of Ukrainian, who is a spokeswoman for the Israeli military. They have a Russian language division, and I think she works there. And she was asked by RBC, which is a Russian broadcaster, about whether Israel had access to Russian CCTV and traffic cameras, because it was revealed in Russia that Russian CCTV cameras were using something called BriefCam, which is an Israeli video analysis software company that has taken credit for Israel's ability to monitor Sayyid Ali Khamenei, the former Ayatollah, in order to assassinate him. And so the Russian authorities were getting worried. Do the Israelis have access to our CCTV? Are they just watching us? And she made some very disturbing comments in response to this. She said, I want to get it right. She said Khamenei's elimination shows our capabilities are serious and that no one who wishes us harm will be left aside. And then she added, I hope Moscow does not wish ill to Israel right now. I'd like to believe that, kind of threatening Russian leadership if they continue to, or if they ostensibly support Iran. So essentially, an Israeli official is threatening assassination of Russian leadership. That's how I read it. And Alexander Dugin, a prominent Russian, read it the same way, prompting Ukolova to actually issue a statement saying, I never said those things, fake news, please check facts. But she never explained how it was fake news. I mean, this is reported in RBC. So I hope Moscow is paying attention here. The Israelis, this is a mad dog off the chain. And I wouldn't be surprised if they threaten Chinese leadership next. Their only objective is to destroy Iran. And they are now threatening Russian leadership. I would not be shocked if they soon threaten to deploy a nuclear weapon inside Iran if they fail to suppress Iranian ballistic missile launches and drones, which they are failing to do. And Iran continues to demonstrate that it can hit Tel Aviv. It's worn down their interceptors. What did Israel do in 1973? Golda Meir said, she told the BBC, I would use a nuclear weapon if we felt like our backs were against the wall. They may have actually taken U.S. and diplomats to an airfield in southern Israel and showed them a plane strapped with nuclear weapons heading to Egypt if Kissinger and Nixon did not authorize rearmament of Israel. I mean, that's a story that's frequently told. So this is an extremely dangerous moment in which the most dangerous country in the world is escalating to a point of no return. And that's why we decided to publish this piece at the Gray Zone by Wyatt Reed. Everyone can check out.
Right. The latest report is he's in hospital. He's well. He's injured, but they're not life-threatening injuries. The same for his cameraman. So you got two war crimes there, at least, targeting a civilian area and targeting journalists.
Yeah. Steve Sweeney's a friend of mine. He's one of the hardest working, bravest veteran war correspondent and reporter, also someone who's very close to the anti-war movement. And he has explicitly stated that they were trying to silence us. They being the Israelis. That looks like he was directly targeted with a GBU made in the United States. This is Israel, the same country that is responsible for the majority of journalists in the world killed last year, the overwhelming majority, that has killed hundreds of journalists in the past 3 years. And they have targeted Steve Sweeney for his reporting. He's on the front lines in southern Lebanon, while most Western outlets are afraid to send reporters there. And what is he showing? The mass ethnic cleansing of the southern Lebanese population. Israel has told them all to leave everywhere north of the Litani River and to never come back. This is a titanic war crime that Steve Sweeney is documenting, and they attempted to kill him for it. Thank God he's alive. Shrapnel has been extracted from his arm, and I'm told he's back out in the field. I would think that British media would want to cover this story and to demonstrate how Israel targets journalists, because we haven't had such a vivid illustration before. But instead, they're whitewashing it. They're downplaying it. The BBC has an article that says, headlined, "Missile Lands Near Reporter." Like, who fired the missile? I don't know. It could have been anybody. It could have been, maybe it was a Lebanese missile. It just landed next to him. Maybe it got lost on the way to a Birthright Israel trip. Like, where was the missile aimed? The missile landed meters away from Steve Sweeney. So I think this is footage that should be, leading primetime news. It's something that would also, I think audiences would want to see it. It's sort of shocking footage, and it's pretty much nowhere.
We'll do our best to get it out there. Max, you are the bravest and the clearest.
Well, I'm not as brave as Steve. Like, I'm not out there like that.
Right. I know Steve as well, and he is a very, very courageous and dogged reporter. Thank you, Max. Thanks for all of your great reporting. Thanks for accommodating my schedule. Thanks for all the topics we covered today. Be well, my dear friend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot, Judge.